Just like with choreography, the role of cinematography in a fight scene contains far more information than can be included within this one lesson. There's simply way too much to cover. However, I'd like to discuss 4 important techniques you'll see filmmakers using as you work with footage from various fight scenes. Many filmmakers will use a long lens on their cameras to compress the space between the fighters and help the fake punches and kicks look more realistic, like they're actually making contact. Look at these 2 example photos. The photo on the left was shot with a 24mm lens, which is considered relatively short or wide angle. The photo on the right was shot with a 91mm lens, which is considered relatively long or tight. You can see that the longer lens gives the illusion that the rear candle is closer to the front candle than it actually is. The space between them is essentially compressed. To enhance the impression that the combatants are landing real blows, many filmmakers will use this trick and work with a long lens on their camera. With a longer focal length, the camera is physically moved back a bit from the action and then zoomed in. Using a long lens, a punch can pass a few inches in front of the victim's head, but from the camera's point of view, it'll appear extremely close. This allows actors to perform their fights more safely, while still retaining the realism and believability of the choreography. Another common thing you'll notice about many fight scenes is that the fights aren't shot from a completely profile angle. Shooting a fight in a side or profile view might be okay if the fighters are actually trained martial artists who are really making contact with each other, or at least are coming extremely close. In these cases, it's a fine camera angle to use, and it really shows the viewer the level of skill possessed by the fighters. Many Eastern martial arts films from China and Hong Kong will use wider shots, as many of their stars are actually experienced martial artists. However, in most Western fight scenes, when there's a good amount of visual trickery going on to convince the viewer that the blows are making contact, and that the actors really know how to fight, a profile angle accentuates the distance between the characters, and the fact that the hits aren't actually making contact becomes pretty obvious. Shots from behind the characters or over the shoulder at various angles tends to give the impression that they're closer together and that the fight that you're watching is a real one. Another thing you'll notice when editing a lot of fight scenes is that many filmmakers will first try to capture the entire fight scene in a continuous wide master shot. Not only does this ensure that you have coverage on the entire fight from this angle, but it can also be extremely useful during the editing process. As with master shots in most scenes, when you have a master shot in a fight, you're able to really see how the events of the fight are supposed to unfold. It gives you a great visual roadmap of the choreography that can help while cutting together the various angles you'll ultimately be using on the final piece. Also, having a full scene master shot can sometimes save you when you're editing, and you find yourself needing to re-establish the fight scene, either to help clarify the locations of the characters within the scene, or simply to give the viewer a bit of rest between the flurry of quick edits and tight shots that compose the majority of most fight scenes. The last thing I'll say about fight scene cinematography is that insert shots and close-ups are your friend. As an editor, you'll definitely appreciate it when filmmakers take the time to capture close-ups of things like a fist making contact with the flesh of somebody's face, a punch landing on somebody's rib cage, bystanders reacting in shock, and the look on fighters' faces as they wince in pain after being hit. All these elements add a ton of visual interest and relevant information in a fight scene, and they help the viewer keep track of what's going on in the midst of all the chaos. These types of shots will also help you, the editor, to cut around the scene by using these types of shots as the connective tissue between the other angles on the fight. So, in this lesson, we learned 4 secrets of fight scene cinematography. The first is that long lenses can be used to compress space and make punches and kicks appear more realistic. Second, we learned that many shots are not filmed in profile angle if the actors don't actually know how to fight. Most of the time, it's just asking for trouble unless you're dealing with real martial arts experts. Third, we learned that master shots are great for establishing the setting of your fight scene and for serving as an editor's cheat sheet as far as how the fight's supposed to flow. And fourth, we learned that insert shots and close-ups are very useful to show specific details of the fight, such as weapons being drawn and complicated or important martial arts moves. In the next section, we'll take a look at some picture editing tips that'll help you when editing your own fight scene later in the course. See you in a bit.